Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel where we discuss all things aviation. Angelo Dube here, welcoming you back. Today we are discussing three airspace classifications: restricted, danger and prohibited airspaces. Why should this be classified? Because you can't fly anything you want into any airspace you want, whenever you want, at whatever level you want, however you want. You have to comply with the restrictions of each classification of airspace. If it's a danger airspace, you need to know what it takes for you to fly through there. If it's a restricted airspace, you need to know what it takes for you to fly through there. If it's a prohibited airspace, you need to know how to behave. So in essence, there are rules to be complied with. There are limits imposed on each classification of airspace. So today we're not doing the general airspace classification into class A, class B, class F, class G and so forth. We are doing the three critical airspace classifications: danger, restricted and prohibited. Now, because of the ICAO code, the airspaces in South Africa, that is danger, restricted and prohibited, will have a code that identifies them, but that code will be preceded by the ICAO code. So it will be FA, Foxtrot Alpha, which represents South Africa, and then the airspace classification itself. So for danger is a D, which is Delta. For restricted is an R, which is Romeo. And for prohibited is a P, which is Papa. So if you are to find this on a chart, it will be written FAD, which is Foxtrot Alpha Delta, that's the danger area, or Foxtrot Alpha Romeo, which is a restricted area, or Foxtrot Alpha Papa, which is a prohibited area. Of course, if you're flying through Southern Africa, these will also differ in terms of which country you are in. The last letter will be the same. It will be a D if it's danger, it will be R if it's restricted, it will be P if it's prohibited. If you're in the airspace of Swaziland, for instance, it will be Foxtrot Delta, which represents Swaziland, and then the letter that represents the particular airspace. So it will be Foxtrot Delta Delta for danger airspace, or Foxtrot Delta Romeo for restricted airspace, and Foxtrot Delta Papa for prohibited airspace. In Mozambique, again, it will be Foxtrot Quebec, because FQ stands for the Mozambican airspace. It will be Foxtrot Quebec Romeo for restricted for airspace, for instance, or Foxtrot Quebec D for, or Foxtrot Quebec Delta for danger airspace. Botswana's code, for instance, is Foxtrot Bravo, so it will be Foxtrot Bravo Delta for danger airspace, and Foxtrot Bravo Romeo for restricted airspace, and so forth. The Mountain Kingdom Lesotho is Foxtrot X-Ray, which is FX, so naturally it will be Foxtrot X-Ray Delta for danger airspace, and Romeo for restricted airspace, and so forth. Now let's look at danger areas in South Africa, for instance. You can fly into these areas, but you must expect to encounter certain operations going on there. You might find other aircraft performing maneuvers in that particular space, which makes it a dangerous space. So we must always be environmentally aware, be situationally aware, and announce your position and be aware of other traffic in the area when you're operating in a danger area, because the risk of collision is very high. I mean, this is the area that is used mostly by student pilots who are training to do their exercises, to practice their stalls, to practice their forced landings, to practice their turns, and so forth and so forth. So it's imperative for you, as you fly through this area, to number one, announce your position periodically, and listen out for other traffic and be aware of their position and what they are doing in that particular area. So that's what the danger area actually entails in the South African context, and broadly in the aviation context, because whichever country you go to, the danger area will be calibrated along those similar lines. Look at the Delta 200 in Cape Town, for instance. It has a lower limit and an upper limit. It goes on the one side from the ground to about 8,000 feet altitude, and the Delta 69 is another interesting sector which moves from the ground to around 4,000 on the one side. That's the Delta 69 Alpha, and the Delta 69 Bravo goes up to from the ground up to 8,000 feet. So in between that height, that column of air, you will find students practicing their stalls, their engine failures, their precautionary landings, and so forth and so forth. That's why it's then important for you, as you fly through the Delta 69 or the Delta 200 or any other Delta anywhere in the world, to actually be on the lookout, be situationally aware. whilst you can fly into the danger area as long as you comply with the regulations there, the restricted area is a different type of airspace. You cannot just fly into it. First of all, you must determine what the restrictions are and what conditions you must comply with if you're going to fly through that particular area. And then you can decide if you're in compliance with those restrictions to fly through that area, because failure to comply with those restrictions will actually be an infringement, an aviation infringement, which can be actioned by the CAA. So these areas will also have an upper limit and a lower limit and an upper limit. For instance, if you're going to be flying over a game reserve, there may be a lower limit below which you cannot fly that particular aircraft. So that may be the restriction imposed on that particular airspace to protect the environment, to protect the ecology, to protect the animals in there. So there will be a lower limit and an upper limit. For instance, it may be that you may not fly below 2,000 feet. It will be written on the chart. You will have to interpret the chart because those instructions will be on the chart. You need to be aware of the chart as you do your flight planning. You need to take that into consideration and make sure you're not in violation of the CAA regulations. An example would be that small corridor of a restricted space near or close to the Port Elizabeth Airport from ground level to about 500 foot altitude. That's the restricted area 88. Also, interestingly, if you look at restricted area FDR or Foxtrot Delta Romeo 4, which is in the southern Swaziland airspace, that also has an upper limit, and so you cannot fly there between ground and 2,000 foot above ground level, as you can see on the chart there. The third leg, or the third type of restricted airspace, is what we call prohibited airspaces. Foxtrot Alpha Papa, FAP if you're in South Africa. If you're in any of the territories I've been referring to now, it's the country code with the P at the end. Then you know that's a prohibited airspace. You may not fly into it. It will be clear as you read the map, as you read your chart, which these spaces are. They will be clearly marked and you need to comply. You cannot fly into them. Flying into those airspaces is prohibited. So it is essentially a no-go zone and no-fly zone. I hope that quick bite was informative, and if so, please do click the like button and continue to subscribe, and to urge others to subscribe to the channel. It's the only way we can reach out to more African children and bring aviation knowledge to them. Remember that with every hour the cockpit beckons, and I urge you to continue doing what you're doing and make sure to do it best, because it's an hours game. Whatever you do, keep adding those hours. You need to accumulate those hours, whether it's theoretical hours, hours of gaining knowledge, hours of doing research, hours of communication, hours of connections, hours of growing your network and connectivity. All those hours matter. Keep adding those hours, because with every hour the cockpit beckons. Angela, to be signing out and saying until next time, cheers.